10, conduct of business, adopt a resolution authorizing dedication of city-owned property at 470 San Mateo Avenue in honor of the city's centennial.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, in conjunction with the year-long celebration and various events to commemorate the city's centennial, it's 100th anniversary of incorporation, there has been some discussion among the City Council about the opportunity or the possibility of providing a permanent commemorative location that would be visible and would be an opportunity to provide additional acknowledgement of the city's centennial and the meaning that that has within the community. The proposal that's in front of you tonight is for your consideration of dedication of the city-owned property at 470 San Mateo Avenue for that purpose. This property, as I believe the City Council is well aware, was for many years an unimproved vacant lot that existed, as I said, for many years following the demolition of the former Wells Fargo building in the mid-1990s. More recently, in approximately late 2007, early 2008, the property was improved at a fairly minimal level with some landscaping and the installation of a fountain so that it could, instead of blighting the downtown environment, could provide an amenity. That improvement has been maintained and has provided a not only improved appearance, but has generated a desirable sort of spot to be welcomed in the downtown, to have an opportunity to see one of the first installations of the city's public art program, which is a mural that was installed at roughly the same time. That property not only has an interesting history, including a failed attempt, a diligent attempt by the city to develop the property for a productive business use, given its central location in the downtown. That occurred in approximately 2005. But more recently, as part of the dissolution of redevelopment in the state of California, this property was considered under the requirements of the state's Redevelopment Dissolution Act as a candidate for a requirement that the property be sold and the proceeds transferred to the county for distribution to local taxing entities. That requirement pertains to any property that was purchased with or was owned by the former redevelopment agency, and that is the case. Purchased by the agency or with redevelopment funds. And although this property is owned by the city, it does have a history of having been purchased with redevelopment funds. Those issues were considered by the oversight board to the successor agency of the San Bruno Redevelopment Agency in October of 2013. And at that time, the oversight board determined that ownership of the property could remain with the city so long as a deed restriction was placed on the title of the property to identify that that situation could remain as long as the property remained in public park or public plaza uses, but that any different use of the property would cause the requirements of the state's redevelopment dissolution law to kick in, and the property would need to be sold, and or the city would need to provide the current market value of that property to the county for the purpose of distribution to the taxing entities. So the property is now deed restricted for the purpose of public park or public plaza use under the jurisdiction and control of the city. It has it has no formal identification or name, and is as I said, an amenity in the downtown that is consistent with the vision of the Transit Corridors Plan, which calls for consideration of the development of public open space, green space, park, or plaza areas within the downtown area as a means of encouraging and enhancing the experience of people using the business and restaurants and other activities in the downtown, encouraging the opportunity for pedestrians to enjoy the environment and to have an experience that makes them want to return. I'm going to switch gears just a moment and speak for a couple of minutes regarding our recent consideration of Centennial-related activities, and specifically one of the initiatives to provide a long-term identification or commemoration of the Centennial is a joint project that the City Council approved approximately 2 months ago with the Rotary Club of San Bruno to place a time capsule that would be funded and donated by the Rotary Club to the city to be installed on city property in a visible location to be open 50 years from now. Again, this is an initiative to commemorate and celebrate the Centennial. The City Council considered and agreed with the subcommittee, the Centennial Subcommittee's recommendation in October to place the Centennial time capsule at the back door to City Hall as a location that would have some amount of foot traffic and would be visible to the public, and frankly wouldn't be forgotten 50 years from now, would still be somewhere where people would notice it and be able to find it when it's time to open it on December 23rd, 2064. As part of the consideration about the idea of dedicating an area of our city or a facility and amenity within the city in honor of the Centennial, further discussion has been underway about the possibility of locating the time capsule at the lot at 470 San Mateo Avenue in conjunction with the City Council's consideration to dedicate that property in honor of the Centennial. The item before you tonight is not necessarily about the time capsule, but it's about the idea of making a permanent gesture towards the commemoration of the Centennial, and to combine that by dedicating the lot at 470 San Mateo Avenue, and to combine that with the location of the time capsule, which is intended to be installed on December 23rd of this year, in order that it can be properly in place during the Centennial year. So with that, the item that is in front of you tonight is specifically consideration of dedication of that downtown property in honor and in commemoration of the city Centennial. The staff report provides a couple of suggested names, although anything that conveys the concept of park, public space, open space, plaza would be consistent with the deed restriction that is currently in place. So with that, the staff report recommends your consideration of dedicating in honor of the Centennial by calling this area Centennial Park, Centennial Plaza, or potentially Centennial Square. With that, I welcome your conversation and your direction.
Any questions for City Manager? Ken?
Geez, how times have changed. I remember Irene's mother. I remember being on this council and sitting in, used to be an Italian restaurant that is now West Coast Cafe, but discussing what we were going to do about that property. And I sat with with Marina Kaiser, and very much wanted that parcel to be a park. It was not the sentiment of my colleagues on the council. I know it was Irene's sentiment. So I believe it is appropriate. I think any time capsule would serve better in something in that location other than the back door of City Hall. I do have one concern, and people that know me know that I'm one of the biggest supporters of the San Bruno Rotary Club. But I'm going to say right now, I do not. If the change in name or if a change of this thing comes forward, and it becomes sponsored by whoever, it should be an opportunity for any organization to come forward for this park. I understand that the Rotary came forward, and the Rotary is named several times in this staff report, and it's my understanding that they offered to provide the time capsule, and then it's also been explained that it's a joint project. So I'd like every opportunity to have, every organization to have an opportunity instead of a certain organization coming forward and making proposing a project with the city, a partnership with the city. So.
If I might quickly respond, just in case the staff report created any confusion.
I'm not confused at all as to the staff report. I am concerned that the Centennial Park will be an opportunity for an organization to want to further, their notoriety in the community. And I'm saying if it happens to be, then it should be an opportunity for any and all organizations to make that proposal.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Through the chair.
Michael?
I'm definitely in favor of having something in our city to commemorate the Centennial. I'm just not sure that this particular lot is the place to do it, and I understand the restrictions that are placed on it and what we can do with it. But I think now that we have the height restrictions removed and we're looking at potential development, I'm sure that between now and 50 years from now, when the time capsule gets opened, we'll probably get a few more buildings down there. And I just want to make sure that if we commemorate this lot right now and call it Centennial something, that we're not going to lock ourselves into saying that we can't now develop this piece of property, because I think that there will be some demand for doing something larger, something more in line with the drawings we've seen and the ideas that are put out there about how downtown should look. And having this one little gap in there that just happens to be there by accident because the Wells Fargo building deteriorated and we had to tear it down, doesn't seem like a master plan. It seems more like a lot that's there by accident, and so now we're going to lock ourselves to always keeping that there. I think at some point it may actually look awkward to have a space there. So I want to make sure that we don't lock ourselves into anything. And if we are going to dedicate something as Centennial, I think it should be something more lasting, not something that might be there just because we didn't want weeds growing in an empty lot. So I don't know. Maybe we can I get some just input in terms of does this lock us into anything, and also commentary on from my colleagues about whether. I mean, is that the intention, that this is it forever, and we're never going to develop that area?
Times haven't changed.
If I may.
Irene?
Thank you. While the placement of the lot is sort of accidental, the idea of having a park-like setting with public art in it as an attraction for downtown is something that at least my family has worked for a long, long time. And part of the beauty of it is that it is at the intersection of Genevieve and it is visible from El Camino. So as you drive by and you look right, or you're stopping at that stoplight and you look to the right, you can see something beautiful that's part of our city. So while I understand your issues about development, and I can understand why that might be an awkward situation, my understanding of the laws right now is that if somebody approaches us to say they want to buy that land, it's no longer our land per se to sell, or we can sell it, but the money doesn't go to us, or we can't sell it. It has to be sold by the county.
Yeah, no, you can sell it. It remains in title ownership by the city. However, deed restricted, such that if you were to sell it or you were to develop it, the proceeds at the then current value of the property would need to be remitted to the county. So you would not be able to, you can't
So we wouldn't
recover
profit from it.
the investment. You can make that decision, but you cannot keep the money that would be generated by the sale of the property.
Okay, so, which I know is not really part of your, it's part of your consideration, but you're looking at an overview picture. Anyway, in my opinion, it adds a great deal to this downtown, and it fortuitously opens up the back parking lot, the public parking lot, so people can park there and walk forward without having to go through different stores, which I know we all awkwardly do occasionally, to access that part of San Mateo Avenue. So I, for one, understand what you're saying. I would love to come back in 100 years and see the park still there and maybe even expanded next door. So if you ever go to San Carlos on Laurel Drive, they had the very same situation. They had a dilapidated building, and the city owned the lot, but they were not doing anything with it. And in that city, the business owners went to the city and demanded that it become a plaza the way it is now, if you ever get a chance to see it. Very similar to ours, opens up to the back public parking. It's at an intersection. It looks lovely. People enjoy it, and it adds to the downtown. So it's rather a long-winded comment, but since I don't always talk much, I can get to do it this time. So I'm in favor of keeping it forever and ever. I think the artwork adds to it. I think every time I drive by there, and I drive by there at least 2 or 3 times a week, somebody's sitting there enjoying it. So I, for one, think it should be called Centennial. I think if people object to the word park because they can't go play in it, that's fine with me. Centennial Plaza works just as well, or Centennial Square, either. I don't really care, but I think it would be, it's an opportunity to call something that I hope would be permanent, Centennial Plaza.
Rico?
I appreciate the comments, and I know how long that has sat there. I remember when the city bought it, and it was to have skin in the game and show the merchants on San Mateo Avenue that the city owned property. And obviously that sat, and then it was demolished, and the fence went up, and it sat. And it sat until about $20,000 was spent by staff, not by consultants, to bring it up to something that was better, so we led by example. I don't call it a park, because to me that is not a park. It's not in our park system, so anything can be added. I don't think it's gone to the Park and Rec Commission. I have the concern also as far as saying, well, this is final. Measure N just passed, and if a developer came and said, the dojo next to it is vacant, and we want to take that and develop it, yes, it would get sold, and we could, and yes, we'd only get a part of the monies that have been invested, but we would then have that opportunity. one of the concerns I know when we talked about the time capsule was at the in the parks over here at the rec center area. Well, the thought was, well, what if? What if a pool gets developed? What if the rec center changes? Then therefore you've got to unbury it. So I think the time capsule, if you're going to put it there, then it's kind of a done deal. And yeah, sure, you can undo it and we can store it somewhere and hopefully we'll find it and then we can move it somewhere. And it doesn't get tossed out or something. But I think that the reason that City Hall came up was just so that we knew where it was, because we didn't perceive City Hall was going to be going away anytime soon or developed, honestly. I do have a concern because I think, like I said, there's opportunity, and I think that we ought to have those opportunities available to us. I know that the council, we voted to buy Florida, and there's going to be a lot that some have discussed about maybe being a park. That's not decided, of course. It was just discussion. So we're going to have another park there. We also need to fund things. Park and lieu fees are about done, I believe, with that purchase. And again, I don't find this a park. So I'm concerned about us being solid in one spot and saying this is it and it's final.
Okay, a lot has changed in this city over the last 19 years. When we tore down the old Wells Fargo building, the reason, of course, it's not open, and a lot of people don't realize it, is because a lot of the foundation is still in existence, so it could actually be a danger to try to have people walk in and around and through that place. The other thing that happened is the opportunity that our transit corridors plan is giving us for open space in the downtown. And instead of trying to develop open space in the downtown, it's there already. We already have it. And people can build around it, and it's still there. It's accessible from Genevan, from San Mateo Avenue. Hopefully we'll do something with the parking lot in the back, but I think it's an opportunity that exists that we really don't have to do a whole lot to achieve, to get. I'm for putting that time capsule there. And maybe, who knows, some extraordinary opportunity will come up in the future. But for now, I think it's a great spot. I'd like to see it as Centennial Plaza or Centennial Square, and maybe embellish it a little bit with some more things on that particular site as we go forward. But it could be a perfect opportunity for the public to view more public art other than what's there now. And like I said, it's there already. It is part of our transit corridors plan, and what we wanted with that plan was open space in the downtown. And I think it just fits. The opportunity is there, and I think we should really take advantage of it. Any more discussion or action by the council?
Through the chair.
Michael?
In my previous comments, I had asked for some feedback from staff in terms of, how permanent a decision this is. So if somebody made us an offer we couldn't refuse at some point down the road, would this decision tonight preclude us from doing that?
There would be no technical or legal impediment to the city council making a different policy decision. I would say, however, that you vest a certain community identity by dedication of the property. And that would be the only issue, but again, that's a policy issue. And then the only technical or legal issue would be you would not be able to keep the proceeds of transfer of that property.
Right. And I see that as a sunk cost anyway, because there's no way we're going to recoup what was paid for that lot. So it would have been nice to get community input on the whole concept, but I know that we're definitely we're running out of 2014, and we have to make a decision. So, right, thank you.
On what Michael was saying, I would like to open it up to the community. I mean, as much as I'm in favor of placing this time capsule there, and at least part of the council is in favor of keeping it a park or a plaza, I'd like to know what the community thinks, because I'd like to see it opened up. I'd like to see it, become more permanent and be more like the park in San Carlos, and let people walk through and actually see some of the public art up close. And if that means investment, if that means maybe, digging up the time capsule and moving it somewhere within that park, I'm not that sensitive to that permanence of placing it in the ground and not touching it for 50 years. So, but then again, any council can come forward and, policy change can happen. So, but I think it's time that the communities, if not the entire community, at least the Park and Rec Commission, the Planning Commission, and members of the Culture and Arts Committee, to voice their opinion of what they envision for the future of this space.
Through the chair, the only one thing I wanted to say is the foundation may be, but also I think, Mr. Mayor, you and I sat on a subcommittee on that, and there was discussion about having it open. And the reason we didn't suggest that because it was a temporary fix and we want to minimize cost. So there was already a drawing of having it go around the fountain and a walkway and seats, and we opted and brought back to the council, which approved, was just because it was temporary for minimal expense. That's just my memory.
And there's nothing to say we can't do that in the future and still keep it as a plaza or square or whatever we want to call it. I think the issue tonight is if you're all right with it, we relocate the projected burial of the time capsule to that particular area, and then we're asking for a resolution to dedicate that property in honor of the city centennial. So what would you like to do?
I move that we move the burial place, sounds so bad, the burial place of the Centennial time capsule to the 470 San Mateo Avenue site, and that we call that site Centennial Plaza.
It's okay.
Well, that, does the resolution say those things? Main property, okay. But it doesn't say naming
We
it
can
Centennial.
make, depending on the city council's action, we can make that relatively minor adjustment so that the resolution accurately reflects the council's action.
Okay, so with that said, I'll introduce the resolution with that change.
Okay.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
No.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.